What's going on, everyone? My name is Brian Turner, the founder and director of No Stress Midwest Training. What I've done here is put together some PowerPoints and presentations on different formations that are commonly used in the soccer game, breaking down the five basic ones: 4-5-1, 4-3-3, 4-4-2, 3-4-3, and 3-5-2, and just kind of giving coaches and explaining them in a little more in depth what are some different things to look for amongst the different parts of the fields and the different thirds, as well as through the different positions. I feel this was created for one of my teams, so all of the players could understand what every other player's role and responsibility was, and more importantly, how their one little piece fit into the big puzzle. So today we're going to be going into more in depth into the 4-3-3. All right, so what we have here is just a basic overview of that 4-3-3 formation. We have our four backs here. Notice how we have our wing backs slightly ahead of our two center backs. 6, 8, and 10 will be marking up the middle. We have our two wide players in the 7 and 11. And then we have our big guy, number 9, up top as our striker. Now, one thing that I want to emphasize with this formation, with the 4-3-3, is I am just one of many coaches that's speaking on how they run the 4-3-3. There's multiple ways you can play in it and coach in it. I'm solely just speaking on my experience as a coach and what I've done over the past few years. So when we start off with our forwards, we have it broken down to the 3 different parts of the field. And the attacking third is very simple: the goal, score goals, right? Once we get up there forward, that's the only thing that should be on their mind, is scoring goals and looking to create those goal scoring opportunities, as well as looking to create some attacking patterns with our center mids and supporting players maybe on the wide, on the wide, or our 7 or an 11. In the middle third, looking to stay mostly central. We have 2 wide players there, so we want to make sure that our 9 isn't going too far one way, too far the other way, too much. There's obviously times where players can drift to the side if they want to create numerical advantages or if they see a mismatch. But more times than not, they're going to try to stay pretty central in those channels, looking to create those attacking patterns and build up play with our outside mids, and that's 7 and 11. And then the defensive third, just staying high while looking to stay connected with our 10 and some of our other forwards if need be, depending on when the ball is. A lot of times as that 9, you're kind of on an island when that ball's in the defensive third, when you're waiting for that ball. So it's good to stay active and make sure you're still staying a part of the game and staying connected. We have our primary player connections, which is going to be our 7 and 11 and our 10. Those are going to be the 3 different players that we want to make sure we're always staying in some sort of a connection with. And then we have a secondary, which is our 8, and could be a 6 as well. In this case, we're just going to use our 8 and just keeping them in the line of sight. Now we're going to work with our outside mids, that's 7 and 11 in the attacking phase of the game. Right, we're going to be staying wide in those outside channels, trying to create 1v1s and 2v1s with those connected players, whether that be the 9, 10, 8, or even an overlap from our wing backs. The closer we get to the goal, when we are moving forward, the closer we get, let's say the ball's here on the left side. As it's coming up, we want to stay wide in these channels, but the closer we get to the goal, we want to start to angle that run in, right? It does no good for our center mid to be all the way out here near the corner flag when a cross is coming in if there's no one in that space. So as we get closer to that goal in the attacking third, we want to start to angle our run in. Similar and opposite to our defending side, as we're getting closer to our own goal in the defensive third, we want to make those runs come in or our positions come in and kind of get smaller. This case, we want to try to get smaller as well as we move up to the third or move up to the inline. We want to make sure we're staying outside of that back post. It's so important that that back post run gets made. This is where all of the goals are going to come. There's that ball that gets played all the way across and there's no one there. So very important that that outside mid on the weak side is making that back post run. We can also look to play early low-driven balls into the box. This is something that's become pretty popular, I think, as of late with Pep Guardiola and Man City when they started their Premier League run, where a lot of those balls that were getting played in were just those early crosses whipped in all the way across the box to that backside or weak side forward or the 9 coming in. In the middle third, keeping width to serve as an outlet when the ball is on that strong side, as well as when the ball is on the weak side. So as that ball is getting played, if it's on the left side here, we want to create this width as we can. We know that the closer we get, we're going to angle that run in. But as we get wide here and the ball's on the left side, it's the opposite or the weak side outside mid to pinch in as well. Does no good to be all the way out here if the ball gets played out there. So if the ball is on this left side, we'll then start to kind of shade in some, still staying outside of the back post, but just kind of compressing that field over here, opening up that space. If that ball gets transition and pivot and kind of starts to move over here, then we'll get wide, and then we can have this person kind of pinch in some more. Okay, with the center mids, we're dealing with the attacking or the cam, right in the attacking third, scoring goals or creating those goal-scoring chances. Kind of talked about that 10 being a creative playmaker, ones that like the ball at their foot, they like to score the goals, but they also know the importance of passing to the striker. So having someone like that is very crucial and very big. Learning how to play off the other center mids and the forwards to create passing patterns and different mismatch 2v1s and 1v1 opportunities. In the middle third, we're going to look to receive the ball and go towards goal. Very simple, right? The 10 is going to be kind of that last person to break from that center mid to the forward role. 10 does not always need to be used to go from center mid to forward, but it's usually good to have them steering the ship and in control of that. What I like to do with my 10s is give them the ability to create and to be creative and express themselves with the ball at their feet. There is formations and there are tactics that, of course, need to be followed, but I think it's so important that that 10, as well as most players on the field, are able to feel comfortable expressing themselves and doing what they see. I think the game of soccer is one of those where, as a coach, we can instruct players what to do in certain situations, but at the end of the day, on the field at that moment, those players have to make the decisions, and they've got to feel empowered and comfortable enough to do that. In the defensive third, we're just looking to start counterattacks, serve a long outlet. So as we move closer back, or as we move back into our defensive third, if we have our 6 on the ball, we can have, as they draw that pressure, try to move, create any type of mismatches we can, but try to find that 10 moving in to kind of break that level of play, and then look to move on into the attacking third and with our forwards. So we have our primary connecting players with our 3 forwards, our 2 center mids, and then we just have our secondary as our back 4 line. Now when we're now moving into our 8, the box-to-box center mid is a nickname for it. In the attacking third, just staying connected and kind of central with the 9, 10, and 6. Between the 3 center mids and the forward, that middle channel is going to be kind of where we're camped out in, where we want to stay. As I said, nothing is definite, so there are times where your 8, your 6, or your 10 can get out wide, and as long as the other center mids are there to help balance it out, that's okay. In the middle third, you're just moving from 18 to 18. This is someone that, for whatever reason, and really enjoys running or is in really great shape. They're able to not only make the plays needed on the defensive end, but also in the attacking end, and still able to facilitate both attacking and defending while doing the running as well. And in that defensive third, just serving as an outlet pass for the defender if need be, when we're looking to kind of switch that field that 6 can look to break levels with the 8, as well as the defenders can look to break levels by finding the 8 as well and moving into the next phase or the next third of the field. With our primary and secondary connecting players, we have our 3 center mids as our primary, as well as our 3 forwards. We'll have our 2 outside backs serve as primary as well, just if they're getting involved in the attack. We want to look to find them, and then keeping the 2 center backs as our secondary connections. On the we are moving down to the 6th, our CDMs. The 6 is one of those important roles on the field. They really serve as that pivot person, getting the ball from one side of the field, being able to switch it to the other, reading the game, seeing the game, understanding body positioning of self and others to know how can we get the ball from this position and get it to the next position. And the attacking third, as I said, serves as like that pivot. So anytime we have the ball here in, let's say, the middle or the attacking third, and we need to switch that play out, we'll have that 6 drop off to look to get that ball, create an angle, then now we can look to switch and then ping it that way. However we so choose, dribble, and as he dribble, maybe something else pops up. They come in, and now we can play that ball in to then find someone else in. In the middle third as well is just still serving as that pivot. And then in that defensive third, we're going to be that outlet pass, looking to find them from our defenders or from our goalkeeper position, and looking to find them to try to get to that next level of the game or the next third of the field. Our primary connected players are going to be our center mids with our defending back line. Our secondaries will be the 2 wide players, 7 and 11, as well as our 9, our forward, our front 3. Starting off with the center backs in the attacking phase of the game, we know that in the attacking third, we're having one of the center backs step up as the other one kind of slides down, creating that sweeper, stopper type formation, keeping whichever one is the weak side or whoever feels more confident being back versus the one who feels more confident being up. You know, one way to look at it, your stopper might be someone who is maybe a little better defender, one who's better in the air, a little more physical, whereas the person back here in the sweeper might be the one that's just playing cleanup, maybe one that sees it a little more and is just there kind of as a last resort, being able to be very vocal, see the field, and share what he sees with the team. In the middle third, we want to move back to side by side. So we go from that sweeper stopper as we're getting up into the attack to then that ball comes back. Well, let's say the opposition wins and they go to play it. We become more back here, drop that 6 down, and still keeping a little bit of depth between the 2 center backs so we're not caught on the same line and one pass can beat us. We have just a little bit of depth there. And then the defensive third, splitting being on opposite sides of the goalkeeper just to make it more difficult for that opposition 9. So then we're doing a goal kick. We can have our 2 center backs start here. They can start here. They can start here. However we want, but we just want to make it so it's more difficult for that 9 to mark. We want to avoid trying to stay too close where the 9 can easily get both of us. Just create some width so they need to make a decision there. Our primary connected players are going to be obviously the other center back, the strong side or the same side wing back, our keeper, and then our 6. We have secondary connecting players with the 7 and 11 if we want to look to try to ping balls opposite, and then as well as our 8 and 10 as secondary. In the outside backs, our 2 and 3, as we're in that attacking third, we really want to try to get them involved in the attack by creating those 2v1 opportunities and overloads, we're able to cause those mismatches, play those long balls in, get those crosses in, and just really disrupt and make it more difficult for the opposition to defend. In that middle third, looking to play those long diagonal balls. Looking to play these long diagonal balls if we're able to, or even look to play those balls over the top here. But it's very crucial that if we have the foot strength and we're at that competition level, being able to see that this ball is going to have a lot of space typically, and you might be able to catch the opposition outside back sleeping. And in the defensive third, just if on the strong side, getting wide to create that space in the middle of the field to serve as that outlet pass. Our primary connected players are going to be the 6, the same side center back, keeper, and then our forward in front of us, with our secondary being the 8 and 10 center, or the 10 center mid, and the attacking center mid, and the striker or the 9. Okay, now on the defending aspect of that, in the attacking third, our forward, right? They're the highest player on the field, and their job is to initiate that high press and line of confrontation. It can be very tiring being that 9 and running, trying to win that ball. For here, this ball keeps getting swung around, boom, and that 9 has to keep moving. That can get very tiring. So it's your job as the 9 to not only set that high line set the line of confrontation, but then also work with your supporting players so they know that if you're going to step here and we want to maybe force the ball to the right, we can have now our 11 or our weak side forward kind of pinch in to cut off this side, keep things there. And now what we're doing is denying the ball back to come into this space and forcing, if they want to, that long ball over there or dumping it down into space there. The job as that 9 is to disrupt that build-up play, right? So as the defenders are building the play up or the goal, we want to make sure that we're not making it easy for them, just applying that pressure, whether it's a full-on sprint and a press, whether it's a slow jog to kind of initiate that timer for them to pass the ball, just making sure that it's not easy for the opponent to play the ball out of the back. In the middle third, we want to prevent the ball from being played back to the defenders. Okay, so a lot of the times, so we have our open center mid here. Ball gets played back. We want to do our best to make sure that we deny that pass, right? So if this ball's here, and depending on what's going on in the game, if we know that this defender is trying to get open, as that 9, we just want to make sure we deny this back pass there. The ball gets swung around, going over there to deny that, just so we can kind of keep the ball in this uncomfortable position for the opposition. And in the defensive third, just prevent the higher press center back from receiving the ball. So similar to that middle third, we just want to do as good of a job as we can in denying ball service back to the opposition defenders. Okay. Now in the defending aspect, in the attacking third, we're working with the forwards to defend as an offensive unit. Also can initiate that high press if we have team cues. And press outside the backs, press the outside back, to try to win the ball or force bad passes. Right in the middle third, we're just remembering to stay connected to our supporting players. And then finally in that defensive third, when the ball is strong side, just understand when to stay wide, when to cut in, pinch for support and cover, and so on. And these are just 2 other pictures of just screenshots of our outside mids when they're receiving the ball. The player connections, what we're doing. Maybe we're in more of a defensive area back here in our defensive third, how everyone else is kind of set up around. Dealing with the 10 on the defensive side, we want to play off that 9 as like a secondary defender, preventing those penetrating passes. So as that 9 is up here applying that pressure, we want to know that if that other center mid comes in, we have that 10 denying that pass in behind the 9's work. If we know that this 8 maybe is coming up and the 10's able to step up, he can go there, and that 10 now has to deny or figure out which is the bigger threat and know that our other center mid can be there to help us out. To mark up here, keeping that 6 kind of on that opposition 10 as well. If that opposition 10 drops in deep, then we can have the 6 follow, and we talked about the continuity of having someone fill in, or it can be a simple conversation from the 6 to the 10 to pass him off, and then now they come over and do their duty. We want to also make sure that we're reading cues, and this is stuff that's worked on at training, but also just understanding the game. If we know that a defender is looking up and then looks down and then goes to look back up, we 9 times out of 10 know that that cue is usually there for a long ball to be played. So understanding those nonverbal cues is also very important. And it just takes a little bit of conversation between the players to kind of understand and pick up on that. In the middle third, we just want to stay connected to our other 2 center mids, denying passes into the opposition. And then finally in the defensive third, just preventing passes to the opposition 6, as we've showed, and disrupting the switch of fields. Okay, defensive phase of the game, or defensive side. In that attacking third, just staying in between the 10 and the 6, being that supporting role, looking to force those inaccurate passes and prevent that penetrating pass. In the middle third, we want to stay connected as well, and just making contact with that opposition 10 as it's coming into our defensive and middle third, just making sure that we have a body on them, we're aware of them. If it's not our responsibility, we can pass them on to our 6, to our fullbacks, or to whoever that opposition player is going towards. And just being able to talk, verbal communication. The game is so simple, and a lot of the times we make it more difficult. A lot of that is done by just not communicating and expressing and talking about the things you see with your teammates. And then the defensive third, just marking the opposition, they're not the 8 or whoever's going to be the biggest threat, as we've discussed. Everything is always going to be trying to mark the man out, but at the same time, it comes down to who's the bigger threat and what does the game call for, what does the game need at that moment. Now on the defensive side of this role, the 6, we want to make sure we're staying behind that 10 and 8. Once again, everything can be rotated and everything can be moved, but these are just going to be some guidelines for players so they maybe aren't given too much freedom at first and kind of get lost with that. Delaying the counterattack by preventing that pass forward, picking up on that, and as I said, they're picking up on that opposition 9 and passing them on to the center back when need be to then pick up the opposition 10 or whoever is the biggest threat to us. In the middle third, passing off the opponents if need be, forcing those inaccurate passes if possible, and then just trying to deny the ball into that opposition player, whether it's the 9, whether it's the 10. And then in our defensive third, just denying the opposing 10 or whoever's the biggest threat, center mid, the ball in dangerous positions. The defending phase of the game, we still want to make sure in that attacking third we have one center back in front and behind to serve as that sweeper stopper. Keeping in the middle third, we will move back into the side-by-side with a little stagger, but just making sure that we are aware of the 9 and denying passes played into him or them. And then Wells talking to the 6 to see how we can pass off that 9, pass off that 10 as we get closer to our goal. Who's the bigger threat? What's our positioning so we can mark up? And then that defensive third, once we get back there, making sure the outside backs are shifting with us, making sure that the 6 is back and marking the next biggest threat after that 9, and just sliding over to help any of your outside backs if the ball gets played out and our outside backs in a 1v1, sliding over some just to serve as a secondary defender and help out if we get beat there. And if we do, and he gets by our outside back here, as our center back comes to defend and delay, then our outside back can now come in and slide into his role until the play is dead, and then they can switch back. Now with our defensive phase of this game, or the defensive side of the outside backs in that 2-3, in the attacking third, just in charge of marking the 7 or 11 or the opposition wing back, communicating to them and just dictating their positioning on where they want to slide over with the help from our center back and with the help from our forward. Maybe we can come and double team together. So if we know that the ball is here at center mid, it gets played out here, we can now have these two talk to see if the ball comes in here, can we maybe apply pressure here as well as pressure there to create the double team? Do we just stay here, create or have this 1v1 until the time comes to step? All it is just going to be a simple conversation that happens between the two players. Knowing, when to step, when to stay, when to slide, all of those different things. That communication is going to be key. And then the middle third, just delaying that counterattack, knowing when to step, when to stay, when to drop, all cues that are happening in the game. And then in that defensive third, just being able to handle 1v1 scenarios if need be, knowing that once again delaying a counterattack or delaying the opposition or denying them to go forward is the same thing as a defensive win, just as if you're winning it. We want to try to deny that ball to come forward and push it back if need be. Final one. Thank you for your time and thank you for tuning in to the 4-3-3. I want to once again say the disclaimer that this formation can be played and has been played and coached in so many different ways. This is not the one way to do it. This is not the only way to do it. There's multiple ways, and how everyone and every coach's experience, that's going to determine how they see and how they play that formation. I hope that you enjoyed it, and thank you for tuning in. Follow us on all of our social media platforms, Twitter at No Stress Midwest, Instagram at No Stress Midwest, TikTok at No Stress_Midwest, and you can visit us on our website, www.nostressmidwest.com. Cheers.